Okay, I'm going to do a little short video on the Olympic funding cuts, sports funding cuts. Obviously, it was in the news not that long ago that the women's bobsleigh team were having their Olympic funding cut by Team GB. They crowdfunded and got the money within 4 days that they needed. It makes you wonder what the Olympic legacy of 2012 was all about. We did carry on some really great performances into Rio, and it was all building from Beijing 2008. We've been building for 8 years. This is going to be 12 years after Beijing when this Olympics comes around. 2 years' time. The Winter Olympics obviously is a different cycle now. So again, building since Salt Lake, I believe. Since Salt Lake, we have done some good things, medaling in all Olympics. Not as many medals as the Summer Olympics because we compete in less sports. But we've been competitive in a lot of the sports we've taken part in, and we'll leave that as that. And so it makes me wonder, because a lot of the money for the Olympic funding in this country comes through National Lottery. So when I buy my scratch card or I buy my lottery ticket, I do more scratch cards than lottery tickets. I do just a once a month bit of fun. A proportion of what I paid for goes straight into National Lottery funded projects, and that's broken down into sports funding and community and charity. And so it gets broken down, and a bit goes into the National Lottery kitty for the prize fund as well. So for every £1 you spend, it gets split several ways. But unfortunately, for some reason, women's bobsleigh is having their funding taken away, and they've now funded themselves. The fear I have is not there is no funding, is that, yeah, fund yourselves, no problem. But it's now, I fear we go back to the days of Edgar the Eagle. I do. I fear us going back to the days of Edgar the Eagle. Back at Calgary in '88, Albertville in '92, Lilyhammer, things like that, where basically a lad from the north of England who was very short-sighted and had very thick rimmed spectacles, plummeting down a ski jump slope and then landing hopefully in one piece at the bottom. People laugh about it, the Eagle and whatever, but at the same time it's a good Cinderella story, because he was told he would never get to the Olympics and he did, and he competed. He finished last. It's kind of obvious what happened, but they even made a film about him. Same with Cool Runnings and the Jamaican bobsleigh team. There have been instances in the past. Eric the Eel Mombasa, the guy who was drowned in the Olympic swimming at Sydney. There have been instances in the past of supposed no-hopers getting to the Olympics and having to fund themselves, or having very limited funding and then struggling to get there, be it if they're very capable or not. So, yeah. And obviously the Olympic movement at the moment has been overshadowed with a lot of doping scandals, especially in athletics, with drug scandals. I've been dogging athletics for 30, 40 years now. It's not a new thing. It's reached new lows, and people are losing faith in the Olympic movement. They really are. Cycling and athletics are the two big sports in the Olympics that are constantly got another drug scandal or an athlete supposedly doping. And I would be highly surprised if Chris Froome isn't doping, but I'm not sold on Froome. I'm really not. And it's got nothing to do with the fact that he's never lived in the UK, he's a tax exile in Monaco. It's the fact I'm not completely sold on Chris Froome. In fact, I'm not sold on anyone who cycles in the Tour de France anymore. I'm really not, since Lance Armstrong. Well, I knew when Lance Armstrong was doing it, with doping, it was obvious. You don't survive stage 4 cancer. In stage 5, you're basically dead. And then win multiple Tour de France. You just don't. It is irrelevant. It is insane. It was a Cinderella story for one time. Do it that many. Yeah. And then after he retired and came back, he wasn't doping and he was nowhere. So that says how doped he was. And people still see him as an inspiration. Yeah, he's doing it cancer. Great, that's the inspiration bit. The fact he then cheated millions out of US Postal, a federal agency. There you go. I'm going to say on that one. But yeah, Olympic funding cuts. So there's issues. And we're a proud sporting nation, and we are a very good sporting nation. There is no doubt of that. None. And good athletes are being screwed out of their funding. They really are. But fingers crossed, women's bobsleigh team do really well, and I think now Team GB needs to come very, very clear on be more transparent on what sports get what funding. Both winter and summer Olympics, they need to come far more clear on who gets the funding and how much they get. Because the National Lottery, I do buy my scratch cards and my lottery tickets every now and then, and I've won a bit of money on scratch cards. I've won a £5 or a £10 there, and for every couple of quid I spend, I win about 30 quid back. But out of every pound that I put in, I know that gets broken down to go into the prize draw. So the National Lottery prizes, and sometimes they roll over and they get to big money. And then it gets split into community projects, sporting projects, charity projects, the National Lottery funds. So it is very, very vital that both the National Lottery come more transparent about where their funding goes, and the sports that receive it, how much they get, and UK Sport and Team GB and the Olympic side of it, and the sports that are not necessarily Olympic sports, or maybe are, but also have domestic league competitions or professional leagues, if they get also assistance. I think it needs to be far more transparent. It's a pretty open system, but it needs to be completely 100% transparent. We need to know where the money's going, because we know that the staff involved need to get paid. They do, we understand this. No one expects to volunteer 12 months a year for free and donate all their time. It'd be impossible. So we know that administrators and people involved with the sport, such as sports scientists, doctors, physios, trainers, they all need to get paid. The athletes, they all need to get paid, and I understand that. But we need to know where the money's going and how fair it's being distributed. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Please leave your comments below. If you are scrolling through and you have an opinion on it, please like and subscribe and comment, obviously. And I'll have another video for you again soon. Thank you very much.